She showed up with a clipboard and a fake smile. "Sir, you owe $200 for neighborhood maintenance," she said like it was the law. I blinked, confused. "What neighborhood?" I asked. My house stood at the edge of the woods, a full mile from their manicured little HOA world. I'd bought the land precisely to stay away from that nonsense. But apparently, they had other plans. The woman, Karen, as the neighbors whispered, tapped her pen impatiently. "It's community policy," she said. Behind her stood two HOA board members, arms crossed like they were guarding Fort Knox. I could tell they were used to people nodding and paying without a fight. I wasn't one of them. I smiled politely. "Ma'am, this land isn't part of your community. My deed's clean. I'm outside your map." She gave a dry laugh. "Oh, that's what everyone says. But see, we expanded the boundary line last year." "Expanded?" I repeated. "Yep," she said, holding up a printed paper, "voted by majority. So technically, you're in." I could almost hear the imaginary cash register in her head. But the funny thing was, I'd been warned something like this might happen. The seller told me the HOA had been eyeing this land for years, hoping to rope it in for fees. I thought it was a joke. Now it was knocking on my door. "Well," I said slowly, "if you expanded the boundary, you must have gotten approval from the county, right?" Her confident grin twitched for a second. Well, it's in progress." "In progress," I echoed. "So basically, not legal yet." She leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor. "Look, just pay the $200 now, and we'll handle the paperwork later. Trust me, it's easier that way." I looked her dead in the eye. "You just picked the wrong guy to scam, ma'am." Her expression froze. "Excuse me?" I stepped off the porch, still calm. "I'm not paying a dime for something that doesn't exist. And if you or your little club step on this land again, I'll have the sheriff show you where the real property line is." She huffed, scribbling something on her clipboard. "We'll see about that," she snapped. "You'll be hearing from our lawyer." I watched her storm off, her heels crunching on the gravel like tiny threats. If only she knew, her lawyer was about to meet mine, the one who used to draft county zoning laws. The funny part? I hadn't even told her yet what was buried under my mailbox, a hidden boundary marker installed by the county decades ago, proving she was trespassing. And I planned to let her dig her own hole before I showed her. 2 days later, I was sitting on my porch, sipping coffee, when I saw flashing lights roll up the dirt road. 2 white SUVs, both with security enforcement written in bold blue stickers. Cheap vinyl, already peeling. Karen climbed out of one, sunglasses on, holding her clipboard like a badge. She yelled before even reaching the gate. "Sir, you are in violation of HOA regulations. You've ignored an official notice and refused to pay fees." I stood up slowly, letting her words hang in the air. "You brought backup?" I asked, eyeing the men beside her. They wore matching polos, not uniforms, and one of them kept fiddling with his earpiece like he'd seen too many cop shows. "They're here to enforce community law," she said, puffing her chest. "If you don't comply, we can remove unauthorized structures from HOA property." "Unauthorized structures," I repeated, looking at my porch. "You mean my house?" Karen crossed her arms. "Technically, yes." I almost laughed. "Technically, you're trespassing." The taller, security guy took a step forward. "Ma'am, we can handle this," he said, trying to sound official. "Sir, please step aside." I looked him dead in the eye. "You a real officer?" He hesitated. We're contracted with... Because impersonating one's a felony, I interrupted. Want me to call the county sheriff and check? Karen snapped, Go ahead. The sheriff already knows we're out here. That's when I smiled. Because she was right. The sheriff did know. I'd called him that morning, after she left another fake notice on my door. He told me, if they show up again, don't stop them. Just keep your cameras rolling. So I did. I tilted my head toward the tree line. See that post? I said. A small red light blinked on it. Motion sensor. Another camera hung by the mailbox. And the best one? A drone hovering quietly just above, watching everything unfold. Karen's face twitched. You can't record us. This is HOA business. On my land? I said. Oh, I can record whatever I want. The shorter security guy whispered something to her. She waved him off, her voice rising. Fine, but you'll regret this when our lawyer gets here. Then a deep voice came from behind her SUV. Funny, it said. I am the lawyer. Karen spun around, confused. My attorney, Mark, stepped out. County-issued badge clipped to his belt. Karen, he said calmly, you're about 50 yards inside private property. No HOA jurisdiction, no legal authority. And if those men touch a single thing here, that's trespassing and impersonation of law enforcement. Her face drained of color. You can't, she stammered. Mark pointed at the peeling security enforcement decals. You even copied the sheriff's font. That's enough for a fine right there. The fake officers looked at each other, muttered something, and got back in their SUV. Karen stood frozen, realizing for the first time she might actually be in trouble. I looked at her and said quietly, You came here to collect $200. Now you're looking at $20,000 in fines. She didn't reply, just turned around and got in her car. As she drove off, Mark chuckled. You think she'll quit now? I smirked. Knowing her, not a chance. She's going to double down. And she did, just not the way I expected. Because that night, I found fresh tire tracks cutting across my field. The night was still, too still. I'd gone to bed around midnight, but something about the silence felt off. No crickets, no wind, just that heavy quiet that tells you someone's where they shouldn't be. Then came the crunch. Tires on gravel, slow, careful. I got up, slipped on my boots, and stepped onto the porch. Out in the dark field, headlights flashed once, then went out. Someone had cut the engine, but I could still see the faint silhouette of an SUV parked near the old fence line. I grabbed my flashlight and clicked it on. The beam cut through the dark and landed on her. Karen, wearing a hoodie this time, clipboard gone. She was holding a tape measure and what looked like spray paint. Karen, I called out. You lost? She froze, deer in headlights. You can't be out here, she shouted, fumbling with the tape measure. We're marking the new boundary. At midnight? I asked, stepping closer. You breaking into private land to draw new lines? She straightened up, her voice shaky but defiant. The HOA board authorized it. We voted to extend our property rights this far. You'll have to comply. I laughed softly. You can't vote to steal land, Karen. That's not how it works. She glared. We're just reclaiming what's ours. This land used to belong to the developer before you bought it. You tricked them with paperwork. I stopped in my tracks. So that's what this was about. Someone had fed her a lie, and she bought it. Behind her, two figures moved near the fence, unrolling yellow tape. Probably the same fake security guys from earlier, now downgraded to nighttime trespassers. You really don't want to do that, I warned. She sneered. "Oh, please. What are you gonna do? Film us again?" Before I could answer, a loud click echoed through the field. Then a voice boomed from a hidden speaker near the barn. "Motion detected. Trespassers recorded. Sheriff notified." Karen jumped. The men froze. "You installed an alarm system?" she barked. "Not just any system," I said, walking closer. "That voice belongs to my brother. He runs County Emergency Dispatch. You're already on their radar." Panic flickered in her eyes, but pride kept her rooted. "You think you can scare me? This land will be part of the HOA. We'll make sure of it." Right then, blue and red lights flashed beyond the trees. Real ones this time. The county patrol had arrived fast, faster than even I expected. Karen whispered, "Oh no." The deputies stepped out, flashlights sweeping across the field. "Evening," one of them said. "Mind explaining why you're spray painting boundary lines at 1 in the morning?" Karen stammered, "We were just doing community maintenance." The deputy turned to me. "You the landowner?" "Yup," I said, "and they're about 50 yards deep into my property." The officer nodded, then looked at Karen. "Ma'am, you're trespassing on recorded private land. You and your helpers will need to come with us." Karen's face went pale. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding." The shorter deputy lifted the spray can from the ground. "Guess the misunderstanding's written in neon orange." As they led her toward the patrol car, she twisted around, shouting, "This isn't over. You'll regret crossing the HOA." I leaned on the fence and smiled. "Lady, you already crossed the line, literally." But what I didn't know yet was that Karen had one more card left to play, and it involved someone inside the county office. A week passed. Things seemed quiet, too quiet. Karen had been booked for trespassing, but released the next day. No charges stuck. That should have been the end of it. But when I went to pay my property tax online, something didn't add up. My parcel ID was missing. I refreshed the page, tried again. Same thing. No record found. That chill in my gut came back. I drove straight to the county assessor's office. The clerk, a nervous young guy, looked up from his computer when I mentioned my parcel number. His fingers froze over the keyboard. Sir, it looks like your property's under review for jurisdiction reassignment." "Reassignment?" I said slowly. "To who?" He hesitated. "The Lakeside HOA." For a moment I couldn't even speak. "That's impossible. This land was surveyed and zoned outside HOA jurisdiction before I bought it." He nodded nervously. "I know, but there was an emergency vote filed through a county official. Someone approved the map change." And that's when it clicked. Karen hadn't given up. She'd gone higher. I walked out of that office, already dialing Mark, my lawyer. "They're trying to rewrite the map," I said. He sighed. "I was afraid of that. But don't worry, I've got something they don't." 2 days later, we stood in the county courthouse, side by side. Karen was there too, dressed like she owned the building. Her smile was smug as ever. "The land was originally part of the development plan," she told the hearing officer. "It was only separated through a clerical error." I stayed quiet while Mark set a stack of papers on the table. "This is the original county zoning file," he said. "Filed before the HOA even existed." He flipped the page. "And this is the deed with a federal land grant stamp, meaning it's protected under national zoning law. You can't change that with a vote." Karen's grin faltered. The hearing officer adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Karen, you filed these expansion documents under the signature of Deputy Clerk Harris." Karen nodded confidently. "Yes, he authorized it himself." "Interesting," the officer said, "because Harris resigned 2 months before this date." You could hear a pin drop. Mark leaned in, voice steady. That's forgery and attempted land fraud. I'd suggest checking the signature. Karen's face went white. She looked around, stammering. I didn't. Someone told me. The officer stood up. Ma'am, you are hereby under investigation for falsifying county records. The room buzzed with whispers. Karen's HOA board members quietly slipped out the back door. Outside, as we left the courthouse, Mark handed me a copy of the final ruling. Land ownership reaffirmed, it read. HOA boundaries reverted. I folded it carefully, slipped it into my jacket, and exhaled. Guess that's over, I said. Mark chuckled. For her, maybe. But you just made headlines. He wasn't wrong. By evening, local news ran the story. HOA president tried to seize private land. Owner exposed forgery in court. That night, I sat on my porch again. Same view, same peace, same land that started it all. Only now, I understood how close I'd come to losing it. The gravel road shimmered in the moonlight, untouched, free. I smiled to myself. I didn't buy land to fight, I whispered, but I won't ever back down from protecting it. And somewhere out there, Karen was learning the hardest lesson of all. You can't charge a man for belonging to his own freedom.